Hey, we are live. Oh my God, I was just sitting here. Hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Just getting used to doing a Substack live. Today, I'm going to be talking about what am I talking about today? I'm going to talk about risk and creating how we can create instead of from desperation, how can we create from a more supportive mindset? And hi everyone, I'm Beth Barany. I am a creativity coach for writers, and we're here a little bit early. I'm just getting used to this platform. If this is your first time on a Substack Live, say hi. If this is your second time, say hi. This is my first time doing a Substack Live, so I am just getting warmed up here, getting all my ducks in a row. And I want to talk to you about how we can create from a supportive mindset. Um, Hi, Denise. Hello, hello. Go ahead and I'm used to doing Zoom, so I'm used to doing a lot of interaction by chat. If you post things in the chat, I will respond. I write science fiction and fantasy, and I'm hailing in from Oakland, California. I'm curious, what do y'all write or create? I'm also a podcaster. I'm working on my first short film. So, filmmaker, teacher, speaker, like to create a lot of things. And as you can see from behind me, I got if you're watching on mobile, you probably won't see my books, but if you're watching on your computer, you'll see books behind me. And right above my head, I think on mobile you can see this is a little piece of art. That's something I created. So one of my hobbies is doodling, drawing, making art, and I do that from time to time. So today I want to talk about creating from a supportive mindset. And the topic of the title is Don't Decide from Desperation, Better Creative Mindset. I think that's what it is. Things keep morphing. Desperation, desperation, or a better creative mindset. So something that I feel like we're a little bit early, so I'm going to just hang out for a few minutes. I am on Substack, bethbarany.substack.com. And I have been publishing there on and off for about the last 3 or 4 years. But that hasn't been my main source of my main newsletter. So if I can pull up my main newsletter here, I'm going to queue up some links for y'all. So I know when Substack came on board, everyone was doing, using it as their newsletter, but I already had one. So I'm like, why double up? So I have a newsletter that I put out a few times a week, and I'm using Substack to share highlights and things. I don't know. I'm experimenting with Substack. I like to do a lot of experimentation. Um, and I came on early today because I just wanted to see what it was like and how and it was so easy, way easier than Facebook Lives. So that is so cool. And I don't know what happens if I jump over to other websites. I don't think you can see my screen, but I can see my screen. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. So I'm a novelist and a teacher. And so what are other people creating? I know I work primarily with novelists myself, and now I'm moving into media, being a media producer for other people. So I work with actors and writers, screenwriters, and directors also. That is starting in the last year or so. And now I'm just talking. Let me see. I want to hear from folks who are here. If you feel comfortable putting in the chat. If you're on mobile, maybe it's harder to chat. I know some folks are on mobile. And we'll just get started in just a few minutes. I like to start at the top of the hour. Yeah. All right. I did post about this on LinkedIn, and someone said they thought that desperation can lead to one of two states: determination, which gets things done, and I totally agree, or overwhelm, which makes you feel helpless. And probably the secret is to figure out, how do you turn that helplessness into determination? Yeah, that is definitely the challenge. And Denise says, I just see you. Hi, Denise. So the chat is not visible. Oh, no, you posted in the chat. So you just see me. I see. You can't see my books. Right. Let me see if I go like this. There's one of my books. Can you see that, Denise? That's Henrietta the Dragon Slayer. That's the first book in that series. And over here is Into the Black, which is the first book in my sci-fi mystery series. So yeah, I guess you're on mobile. It's cool. The Substack shows a highlighted kind of, it's a lighter version where my head is, and then it's a little bit shaded on either side of me. So that's really cool. So thanks for letting me know, Denise. That's really great feedback. I really appreciate it. All right. And I don't know if anyone wants to share in the chat what they're creating and where you hail from. I am here in the San Francisco Bay Area. I live in Oakland, which is sandwiched between Berkeley on one side. Gosh, what's on the other side? I think San Leandro. And across the bay is San Francisco. And if I'm like walking just a block from where our apartment building, and I look west, I can see the Golden Gate Bridge. It's really cool. So I'm up in the little mini peaks here in Oakland. All right, it is 10 o'clock. So I'm going to start my intro. Hello, everyone. I'm Beth Barany. I am a creativity coach for science fiction and fantasy writers, a teacher, a speaker, and a trainer. Also, a lot of other creative things. I imagine you also do a lot of creative things, those of you who are here today. So a big part of my day, and imagine a big part of your day, is putting time and attention on your creative work. But sometimes that could feel really challenging, maybe overwhelming even, especially when our creative work is competing with all the other obligations that we have during our day. So something that I notice people can come from a place of desperation and worry and anxiety and fear. And yet to create, to be able to sit down to create, we need to feel grounded and clear and focused and have the ability to put words on the page. I'm assuming I'm talking to writers, but of course there could be other creatives here as well. So I want to just welcome all of you in today. I'm going to spend about 30 minutes chatting, and this is interactive. I'm a teacher. I want to hear from you, where you are, what you're creating, what are some of the challenges that you have getting yourself to the page. My main focus in all my creative work is helping people develop processes, simple steps that they can use that are repeatable, that allow them and help them, support them to get to their creative work. My passion is science fiction and fantasy. That's what I write. That's what I support people in. And now also I am transitioning. I'm now moving into being a creative entrepreneur trainer who supports people, primarily creative writers, who want to build their business, serving other creative writers in a place of ease, joy, excitement, and clarity. So to that end, I'll talk a little bit more shortly about our boot camp coming up called Find Your Creative Entrepreneur Niche, to help people get started, figure out where do they stand and how to take action into their business. So I am excited today to talk a little bit about it's almost like a dichotomy, or maybe it's a polarity between not being able to work on your creative projects, being kind of full of anxiety, full of desperation, to being able to work on them, having a creative mindset that supports what you want to do. And now a friend of mine shared that I was promoting this event last week, and she noticed, and I noticed too, that sometimes desperation can be a motivator to get us moving, to get us like, oh my gosh, this is happening. And at first we might feel a flutter of fear, a flutter of like, oh no, right? Like kind of anxiety, maybe a little bit of the fight, flight, freeze response, right? Which is a stress response, and also a safety mechanism. And then from there, what do we do? And how do we move into creative work? And I just want to welcome everyone who's joined me in this chat. Feel free to say hi in the chat. Can you see the chat? I see some people have posted there. So thanks, Denise. And you could please say hi. Just say hi. That would be awesome. Okay, so I want to acknowledge that the fear response, the fight, flight, freeze response is, there's nothing wrong with you if you have that response. It is actually a safety mechanism. So I'm going to just start there because a big part in being able to transition from that freeze, from the fear response, however it shows up for you, uh, first we have to acknowledge that it is actually a safety mechanism. There's nothing wrong with you. And when you acknowledge the present time, what is going on, as there's some actual real purpose, we don't do this because we're dumb or stupid or anything wrong with us. We do it because there's something that feels threatening about what it is we're about to do. Um, Thanks, Britt, for letting me know that you're here. So glad to see you. Britt is part of my business and helps me run. We run sprints, writing sprints every week, and she is one of the hosts on that. So I'm so glad that you're here. And yeah, tech sometimes just doesn't work. So I am exploring. I was doing Facebook Lives. Now I'm doing a Substack Live. Next week we'll probably do an Instagram Live, and we might throw in a YouTube Live as well. Because, experimentation is the name of the game for me. So, the first step in being able to shift your mindset from the fearful response is to acknowledge that there is a legitimate reason somewhere in your system, could be completely unconscious, about why we have that reaction. And, I invite you to explore what could feel, how could you be feeling threatened when you have that fear response? And there's a lot of different reasons, right? It could be external factors that are really putting us into that space of fearfulness. It could be internal factors. What kind of internal factors? It could be our thoughts about ourselves, the way we might talk to ourselves, the way we may think, oh, I can't do this. Oh, this is too hard. That kind of thing. I'm too overwhelmed. There's too many steps. I can never get there. The goal, it feels so enormous or so far away or so big. So I'm a novelist, and who here is a novelist? Who here writes stories, short stories, poems, novellas, novels? If you're trying to write any kind of story, except maybe flash fiction, your story process, your writing process is going to take time. And even I would imagine with flash fiction, you're going to polish that thing. So when I sit down to write, I am not going to be writing a novel in one day, right? Nobody writes a novel in a day, or a short story. Um, and so we're already working on the long term. Therefore, uh, I one of the ways to handle feeling overwhelmed by our goals is to make our goals much, much, much smaller. So when you sit down to write, are you writing a novel? No, you're writing a page. You're writing half a page. You're writing a few words, a few paragraphs, or you're writing, most people don't write all day long. We all have day jobs. We all have lots of responsibilities. Most people don't have that luxury or that desire. I don't. I actually don't want to write all day long. So if I have an hour, I know, well, on a very good day, I can write, up to 2,000 words. On a slow day and on an average day, I'm writing 500 to 1,000 words. So something I actually consciously do is I make the day's goals very, very, very doable. So that instead of looking at, oh my God, I have to figure out how to edit my 150,000 word novel and make it amazing, I'm like, no, that's not your job today. Your job today is just to review the chapter and make changes. That's it. And maybe you're only reviewing a few pages. So this is something I consciously do all the time to make it feel doable. And as soon as I make it feel doable, my whole system relaxes. Now I can get to work. So welcome, welcome. I want to pause here and welcome folks who've arrived. Welcome, Farmer, joining from South Carolina. You write novels, poetry, and some nonfiction essays. Wonderful. Hi, Britt. Britt has a wonderful community called Plant Sing Publish. You are working on your first novel. Great. And you also really want to master short stories. Fabulous. And yes, I will be moving around the lives on Instagram and YouTube. Excellent. Great. What else do folks write? And anyone here curious about serving creative writers? I know, Brett, you are serving creative writers with your community, Plants Publish. Does anyone else, are you curious about serving creative writers? And how do you feel about that? Um, I know when I first started my business, I found it exciting and a little bit overwhelming, but also excited. And I am just, there it is. So I'm just going to pause here in my discussion around creativity. Thank you for the hearts to let folks know that we are offering a boot camp coming up in a few weeks. I'm trying to type and write. That never goes well. Of course, we picked a difficult spelling word. Entrepreneur. Find your creative entrepreneur niche. It's going to be March 20th to 24th. So 4 days of teaching, and a fifth day is an optional mini mastermind. Please come join us. It is $67. Gala and I are going to be your co-teachers. And we are there for anyone, creative writers and anyone who uses the tools of fiction, who want to serve other creative writers and finally know how to get paid for it. So this has been my full-time business for the last 20 years. Gala, my co-teacher, is a published novelist, romance novelist, and is helping writers for the last few years and has been a full-time book coach for the last year. We're going to help folks in this 4 days of live teaching and teacher support with printable worksheets and interaction. And we are here really, our goal is to help folks. If you feel the pull to help creative writers and you're not sure where you fit, we're going to help you figure that out. And we're going to help you find clarity so you can take action and it's not theoretical. And we're offering some gentle accountability, some simple tools, and some real next steps. Because what we really care about for creatives who want to serve other creative writers who want to serve other creative writers, which is our super niche, is clarity. We want to help you with uncovering your clarity so that you can have some confidence. And we do that because we're going to offer you structure. We're going to offer you support. So that's my little spiel there. If you have any questions, let me know. I want to say welcome also to Denise, short stories, poetry, and starting to work on novel ideas. That is so, so wonderful. So in the time we have left today, I'm also open to any questions that you have about the writing process. I know it backwards and forwards. I've been teaching writers for the last 20 years. And actually, I started before that. And I tell a story in the training. I'm like, oh yeah, I was a writing tutor when I was 19, a sophomore in college, and I was tutoring freshmen because I just love helping writers and I'm passionate about the creative process. And I also like to just dive in there and help folks. And I was helping friends too with their papers and asking questions and helping them think more clearly. And I too also sought out support all the time to make my writing better. So I am distracted by thinking about the past. Okay, let me bring myself back to the present. And something else that I do to help myself go from desperation and switch over to a better creative mindset is I think about how I would like to feel at the end of the day. And that will get me going. Meaning, if I think, I would really like to have written by the end of the day or edited or looked at my stories, then I think, well, what is the smallest step I can take? And I put it on the calendar and I take that step. Or I should say, I've already put writing on the calendar, but putting a writing commitment on the calendar or putting any kind of big creative project, putting it on the calendar really helped me. And it's one of the ways I show to myself that I am committed to getting that work done. So if you're just joining us, I'm Beth Barany. I'm talking about how do you move into a better creative mindset for you so you can get your creative work done. And by better, I mean supportive. I mean the mindset that helps you get into the flow. Maybe some of you have heard about the flow. There's some great books out there on this topic. I'm a big fan of getting into the flow, and I've experimented with a lot of different ways to get that done for me in short short time segments because we have a busy life. Another thing I want to encourage you, if you are at all curious about figuring out your creative business style, if you want to be a writer who serves other writers, creative writers, go ahead and check out our quiz. We have a short, fun little quiz called Creative Entrepreneur Business Style or Creative Business Style Quiz. If you like quizzes, oh, that link didn't. Let me give you a better link there. That was the short link. For whatever reason, that didn't flow. So it's bethbarany.com/quiz. This one should hyperlink. Oh, neither of them hyperlink. Okay, maybe they both go to the same place. All right, I've been talking a lot, and I would love to hear from folks. If you have any questions, what do you create? Any sticking points? Any curiosities? What are you curious about? So that's another tool that I use to switch from any kind of fearful stance that I might feel or being frozen. Is I ask myself, what do I want to know next? What am I curious about? I have to take a sip of coffee. Doing lives all by myself, that's tough. I'm a teacher. I'm used to interaction. So interact with me, ask me any questions, and I'm happy to share some of the other questions that other people have had and also questions I've had in the past. Like, how do I make a big decision? Sometimes it can be very overwhelming. Um, mm, I might feel very stuck in trying to figure out a big decision. So I don't know about you, but I sleep on it. And also, I've learned through the years that I really need to have an information gathering time. Sometimes it's really hard to make a decision because we don't have enough information. So, what is the information that you need? What is the question that you can ask? This one question I love that one of my coaches gave me years ago and gave us in the training is, what is the difference that makes the difference? Meaning, what is the smallest change that you can make that will have the biggest impact or just even an impact? So I can just continue to drop pearls of wisdom here, but anybody have questions? I'm going to pause. I am excited to be teaching our Find Your Creative Entrepreneur niche in a few weeks. We have prepared some really wonderful material and talks for you, and processes and worksheets and handouts. So I'm very excited about that. I spent the weekend editing the videos that we're going to be presenting. I have 3 out of 4 of them done. Very excited about that. Gal and I are really excited to bring this to you. And something that we noticed, now, of course, one of our specialties is that we're not a one size fits all program. We actually want you to do some thoughts, some investigations into who you are and what your best creative process is. So I just want to welcome in Carrie Ann. Hi, Carrie Ann. Thank you so much for joining Substack. Um, some people have shared what it is that they're working on, what kind of writing that they're working on. You're welcome to share. Something that I'm curious is what is the genre of the stories that you're all working on? I love working on, let's see, I'm editing a science fiction mystery. I'm working on a action fantasy with romantic elements, so kind of a romantasy. And I have a young adult action adventure scripts that I'm working on. So I'm definitely in the sci-fi fantasy world. Britt, thank you so much for sharing these links to your Planting to Publish community. I really appreciate that. And you're so welcome. Um, Denise, I love your question. What do I need to do now? What a powerful question to get you into action. That is great. What do I need to do now? I love that. Something that I notice, especially when I tend to go through a very big emotional cloud, confusion, and where it's hard for me to tell what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and it's just can be very overwhelming. So something I've learned to ask myself as I not navigate through the fog is, what is showing up for me right now? So for me, a big part of what I need to be doing is just paying attention to the emotional state and just noticing and naming, and more importantly, feeling, because that is how I'm wired. I've got this sort of deep emotional wave that moves around all the time. And my job is to really just pay attention to that, make room for that. And from there, I'm able to move to words. I'm able to move to story. I'm able to move to action. But if I ignore the emotional space, everything feels like I'm walking through sludge. Carrie Ann, thank you. I'm currently working on articles and a sports romance story. So fun. I know sports romance is really big with the hockey romance going on TV, the Canadian show. Let's see. When do you decide? Thanks, Denise. I love this question. When do you decide to call it romantasy or fantasy romance? This is such a great question because I was researching this recently for my story. Yes. Okay. So it's actually a plot issue, plot question. Does the romance drive the plot, or does the action adventure, whatever is driving the fantasy? And so, for example, I did read a romantasy recently, but it was definitely it was about a woman who fell through a portal from one fantastical world. That was actually there was no magic in her world, and she falls into a world that has magic. And the sole purpose for her being there is to marry the prince. And it's like an accidental. She wasn't supposed to be the one who fell through the portal, but she's there, and now everyone thinks she's so it's mistaken identity. And so the whole story is leading up to this marriage. So I definitely call that a romantasy because the whole plot turns around the fact that she is supposed to marry the prince and she's the wrong person. And of course, on top of that is the plot. She's a thief in her ordinary world and she wants to get back home, but here she is stuck in this fantasy world. And she uses her thievery to figure out a whole bunch of things and find out the plot and the king and the who really should be in power and all these things that are part of the story. But really, plot spine is the mistaken bride has to marry the prince at the end and does. So that's hands down a romantasy. Versus my story, which is about, for example, a thief who is stealing from the prince so she can save her community of thieves from the ogre. So she is driven to find this Sinbad's treasure. And now and then they're going to accidentally fall in love because of the potion. She thought she was giving him a sleeping potion, but instead it was a love potion. And now they're stuck together and they have to work together, and all these magical things ensue. But still, she is driven to find Sinbad's treasure to save her people from the ogre. So that is an external plot that is really what drives the entire action of the story. And then romance is a secondary plot. They're going to have to figure out how to work together and work out, untangle the love spell, which is going to have all these permutations. I've already had like a second permutation to it that complicates everything. So I'm using romance as my strong secondary plot, but it's not what drives the action of the story. So I hope that that's clear. And by the way, the first story I was talking about is by one of my favorite authors, Kate Johnson, out of England. And she wrote, it's funny, I don't remember the name of the novel. I'm going to get it for y'all. But she also wrote this fabulous adventure fantasy story with lots of romance called Max 17. And I can't find her website. I just put it in there. If someone wants to call up Kate Johnson, actually, if I go to Amazon, I'll find it. I love just about every single thing. I've read a lot of her stories. Here it is, The Promised Queen. Just got a lot of great reviews there. So it's The Promised Queen, and man, they are getting so savvy with their subtitles. The Promised Queen, the hottest romantasy for 2026. Sarah J. Maas with a twist you won't see coming. That is all in the secondary title. Wow, they're getting so savvy with their SEO. And by they, I mean the publisher. Because this is a trad pub book. Kate Johnson. She's written a lot of great things. Let's see. Great question, Denise. Anybody, yeah, let me know if that helps. That's my interpretation, and I actually was discussing it with Gala. Gala writes, my co-teacher in the creative entrepreneur space. She writes romance. That's her main thing, and she's written a lot of different romances. And I believe she is also working on urban fantasy. I really loved this story by Kate Johnson, and it kind of set up for a sequel, but I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be one. Um, let's see. It's published by One More Chapter. I don't know. Maybe it is indie. And then if you're curious, if you like Firefly, I think you're gonna really enjoy Max 17, which is a trilogy about Max 17. A really good, really good. I just reread it recently. Okay. Anybody else have book recommendations as we finish up here? I'm just going to go to 10:30 a.m. Pacific here, so another 6 minutes. Any other book recommendations that you have? I just gave a lot of shout outs to Kate Johnson. I read widely. I'm actually reading Elizabeth Moon again right now. She writes sci-fi and fantasy. She does these great women ship captains, spaceship captains. Let's see. Denise says, so romance/fantasy and romantasy are the same, and fantasy romance/romance is what category your book falls under. Um, yeah, I mean, if I were going to the bookstore and I would go, say I wanted a romance that was all in a fantastical world, yeah, I'd go to the romance section and then I would find, oh, here's some that are set in fantasy worlds and that are completely romance driven. Yes, romance/fantasy and romantasy are the same. Fantasy/romance, yeah, that would be a subset under fantasy. But at bookstores, usually would just be filed under the fantasy section. Now, not every fantasy has romance, right? My young adult Henrietta the Dragon Slayer, it has a touch of romance, just a touch, but it really does not drive the plot. What drives the plot is the external adventure and the quest and that kind of thing, and what Henrietta is about, what she's up to, and then it's like secondary, the romance plot, and even the final at the end of book 3, all the big things that happen, the big battle, because it's called Henrietta and the Battle of the Horse Mesa. So the story's going to culminate in a battle, and the romance is part of that. Excuse me, but not. It doesn't drive the plot. It isn't because of her love that she goes to war. The reasons they have a battle is much broader. Okay. Great question, Denise. Any other questions? Um, any other questions? Oh, I should let everyone know I also have a podcast called How to Write the Future. And I designed it for science fiction and fantasy writers, but it's for anybody who wants writing tips and also cares about the future, because I talk to futurists and I interview folks like that. I also interview authors. How to Write the Future. It's available everywhere. And this week's podcast is totally timely. And that's actually why I came up with this topic today. It's called Risk Taking Without Desperation, Write from Trust. And so, yeah, what allows you to trust yourself as a writer? To me, trust is a key component in being a creative writer, a creative entrepreneur, is we really trust ourselves when we sit down to write our stories. And when I ask myself that question, what allows me to trust myself, I kind of have a nonverbal answer at first. It's just this impulse, this drive that brings me to the page, that is part of self-expression, and not censoring that, letting that flow. That the more I do that, the more I trust myself. And in the act of creation like this, without censorship, trust is there. It's interesting. It's hard to describe what allows me to trust myself, but I do. And the more, I guess what I want to say is the more you practice your art and the more you practice showing up and doing it, the more you build. It's like a trust muscle. It almost feels like I'm building the muscle to do that, to trust myself even more every time I do. So trust yourself, trust your impulses, go create. Uh, and I do have time for another question. One last question, maybe two. Anybody have questions? I hear my cat meowing. Rocket, you want to come say hi? Sometimes he shows up for these. You want to come say hi? Oh, he might show up. If he come on, come say hi to folks. No, all right, I can't pick him up. He doesn't like to be picked up. All right. Questions, questions. If you are on LinkedIn, you're welcome to comment on the article that I wrote about today's. See if I can put this in here. Go. We have a question. Yay, Sofo. Hi. How to tell intuition apart from the sort of overthinking? Not to change something that might actually be right, if it makes sense. Yeah, wow. Great, great questions. So there's two main ways of knowing that we humans seem to have. One is in our what we call the mind. We're thinking a lot about something. And it's intellectual and it's like a puzzle and it's actually disconnected from emotion a lot of the times, or at least the awareness of emotion. And then the second way of thinking is in the body. What do you notice in your own body when you put your attention on something and kind of just step away from thinking about it, but just feeling about it? Now, what are the body senses telling you? So I notice for me that there is a difference. Like my body sense could be urging me in this direction. Literally, I practice this on a street corner. Ask your body which way it wants to go, and then notice what your mind is telling you. And there's going to be probably two tracks there. One is the mind saying, well, you should go to left because you have an errand that way. But then your body's like, no, but my body's being pulled to the right for no discernible reason that my mind understands. So I would say practice noticing those things because, in my opinion, and having studied intuition a lot for over 30 years, intuition is the body talking to us, is the body senses, is these urges, these impulses, these knowings that don't come from the mind, that come from the body. And science has shown us that we have a huge amount of neurons going on in our digestive system. And there's other parts of your body that are sensing things all the time that your mind is not consciously processing, or at least you're not consciously aware of. Our brain is our processing center. But the body we have neurons everywhere throughout your body, from head to toe. So I would invite you to notice what is the body awareness that doesn't have words attached to it and that doesn't seem logical. That doesn't seem logical. If you find yourself saying things like that to you, noticing awarenesses that you have, then that's your body speaking. And then you can gather information from the mind. So the mind might say, well, this is the right way to do it, or this is the logical way. And those are all based on the past. That's based on everything that you've learned in your life till now. And then notice what is your body? What is your body sensing? Uh, so I hope that helps, Sofo. You're welcome to reach out to me. If anyone has questions, reach out to me. I'm at bethbarany.com. I'm also, you can contact me through my website. I have a contact page as well. I'm also on Substack. I think you can reach out to me via Substack. And I'm going to wrap it up with this. Denise says, once I published some of my work, I was able to trust what I jotted down from my mind rambling. I was able to look at it and create something out of it, trusting that when I created something out of it the other times, I published 3 pieces of my work. When I stumble and get stuck, that is what I tell/remind myself. That is so great. Yes, you have accomplished things. You did it. You were able to turn your ramblings into something and publish things and publish your work. That is so great, Denise. I love that. Yes, your past successes, remind yourself you did it before. You can do it again. I guess we shouldn't be looking for rational reasons behind every decision, including creative. Yes, absolutely. What we call rational, I think a lot about this. Well, I've been thinking about this from time to time over the years. Like, what is rational? What is logical? Like when we get into that frame, where does that come from? That feels to me just as arbitrary as anything. But it's what it is the history. It's things that have been said and repeated and over and over again, and we call that rational. There is some belief structure behind what we call rational that serves something or someone. I don't know what it is. It depends, right? I'm speaking in broad generalities here, but it may not be what your own impulses are dictating. So I'm glad you're paying attention to that. All right, everyone, I'm going to close out here. Pay attention to my newsletter. I'll post it in my Substack notes. I'll try and remember to do a posting article on Substack, wherever I'm going to be next year. Next year. Oh my God. Next week is next year. That's how my brain works. Timey-wimey, everyone. Timey-wimey. Wibbly wobbly. Have a wonderful week. Reach out to me with any questions. I hope you'll join us for the Find Your Creative Entrepreneur Niche Boot Camp in a few weeks. Take our quiz and happy creating, everyone. All right. Take care. Ciao, ciao. How do I turn this off? Oh, there we go. Thanks for joining me on the Substack Live experience today. I really appreciate it. Ciao, ciao. Bye.